I promise you solutions, or at least tools, in how we can reduce many of these conflicts and the sabotage we're in. Take action with me. Stop complaining about symptoms and start dealing with what's magnifying the cause. Willingness. Be willing to acknowledge that we have biases that may not serve us in our collective humanity any further. I know you'll say, but my ideas of humanity are the right ones and the others groups are bad. Maybe, but that's part of step 2. Right now, just be willing to look at what's feeding your biases and challenge the message and its messenger. For example, check the message and the messenger in our media programs. The information may or may not be fully or even partially correct, but the framing of the bias in the message, how it's being applied, or what the next action it might demand of you should be carefully considered. The framing bias of our media programs are being spewed at us at every second of the day. Yes, I call them programs because that's exactly what they are. Programs planned and created to program our perspectives, our views, and our actions. Part of being willing to acknowledge our biases includes this. Realize how our judgments are influenced by what springs most easily to mind. What's most available to us is what they want us to have. The barrage of biased media programming, it's an availability heuristic. You see, availability heuristic is how our judgments to think and act are motivated by how recent and emotionally powerful our most available memories are. The more emotionally powerful and recent, the more relevant and valid they seem. The more frequently we subject ourselves to them, the more they have us where they want us. What's being made most available to us through our media are framed biases and terribly unhealthy levels of prejudice, hate, deceit, and rash judgments. And what do? We keep going back to it because it's right there. Number 2 is awareness. Be aware how aggravators work to keep us in conflict through our in-group and out-group biases. Think, are you contributing to it? If so, how? One of the easiest ways to manipulate you is through what's called your confirmation bias. It's arguably one of the easiest things for them to exploit us through, and possibly the toughest one for us to get rid of. Remember I said how we want to feel right and avoid the discomfort of being wrong? Confirmation bias is how we build delusions that confirm the way we already think. It's our frail ego trying to preserve its false sense of self, no matter the cost. We can take this manipulative tool away from them by removing ourselves from watching so many of our preferred news outlets and stop clicking on the social media feeds that agree with them. Just stop. You don't even have to introduce new outlets or feeds that don't agree with you at this point. Just stop someone else's voice and their interpretations of the world and ideas from directing yours for now. Continuing to subject ourselves to their programming is continuing to allow them to manipulate and force their tactics to keep us divided. They constitute a third group, and one that is arguably the most powerful of the three, and that they in fact become the out group. I say we hold the power to not allow them to manipulate and delude us by not subjecting to their tactics of inciting conflict, where conflict is not what we need or want. Be aware of the obvious, that there are immeasurable number of in-groups and out-groups that make up our society. Life is far more diverse and creative and ever evolving than simply left side, right side, blue, red, Democrat, Republican, black, white, rich, poor. You get the point. Be aware the aggravators put immense pressure for us to line under a single designator that they've given us to choose from. Part of our aggravators' message, one that you may yourself very well be spreading today, is that if you're party to one, then you're enemy to another. Working us to stay divided by only 2 variables is a facade. This is clear evidence of a realistic conflict theory being played out and how contact hypothesis contributes to our answer. Contact hypothesis, also known as intergroup contact, a term describing how conflicts between in-groups and out-groups are resolved by spending quality time as mixed groups working toward common goals. It has been studied hundreds of times for decades between incredibly diverse groups, topics, and types of contact, and the results are consistent. That contact generally reduces intergroup prejudice and improves intergroup relations. Evidence shows that if you want 2 groups to get along, get them to spend time together. This is where we see the mandates around COVID-19 threatening our ability to do this by stopping us from spending quality time with others outside our in-groups. Remember when, before we were restricted from spending time out in public, where we naturally had shared time with mixed groups, meeting new people, being introduced to new thoughts and perspectives, talking in public places about mutual values? We're not allowed to come together in groups to perform our ability to resolve these issues ourselves in the many proven ways we can. Is this a study in keep people apart, so they call for us to resolve this problem? When it may be that some don't want these problems resolved since they benefit from this division and their control over us and how we are allowed to manage it. They've told us, no, you can't do that. Go back indoors, fear all others outside your group, stay mad at them, stay angry and woke about the issues we tell you to stay emotionally inflamed about. It seems they want us to see others in public, not as our fellow humans, but as outgroups with little in common and as walking deadly virus bags that threaten each other's lives just by being out and about. There has been such a strong deterrent in the mandates that we're being told that if we do spend time together, unless it's for required, absolutely essential resources or gathering in protests or actions that support one of the intergroup biases they want to enforce us at healthy levels to have, then we're shamed or fined or arrested. Even online, if we don't toe the line they say should be towed, we're deplatformed. Our voices removed from their online echo chambers. So how do we make contact hypothesis or intergroup contact work for us under these conditions?